Welcome to how to play video of Iron Forest. Iron Forest is 2 to 4 player team versus team game. In each game, one team takes control of Iron Forest, trying to reclaim what's theirs, and the other team controls animal clans, trying to protect their homeland. Before starting to play, you have to decide which scenario will you be playing. For this video, I will tell you how to play Establishing Network. Establishing Network is a scenario we recommend playing when you're playing the game for the first time. After picking the scenario, first thing you have to do is assemble the board. To assemble the board, first you have to assemble the lower level, which consists of these 5 boxes with the green forest. Then you have to place these risers into these 4 corners. There will be special markings in the final version of the game. Then you have to assemble the upper level, which consists of these 2 boxes. Place them next to each other, and using these clips, just clip them between the doors together. Once you have assembled the upper level, place it on the risers. Easier done standing up. But since I'm a professional, I don't even have to lift my butt off this chair. Then clip it in place with these black markers. And now we have assembled the lower level, the upper level, so we're ready to move on. Next, we're gonna find out which team starts the scenario. And in Establishing Network, the animal clans are the ones who start the scenario. You can see it right here on the scenario sheet. We're going to set up a 4-player game. And since the animal clans start the scenario, they're going to get the turn order marker 1 and 3. And the Iron Force is going to get the turn order markers 2 and 4. Then we're going to shuffle the power-up cards and deal 2 to each player. Then place the power-up cards somewhere nearby because you will need them during the game. Then take all of the mechas and place them on the board, on the depots matching their color. All the green animal clan mechas go into one box right here, and the Iron Force mechas go onto the upper level. The final game is going to be colorblind friendly. You'll distinguish cards, miniatures, and dice easily. Then give each team their 4 mecha cards. Mecha cards are these bigger sized cards that have 2 sides on them, healthy side and damaged side. Then take each team's activation decks, shuffle them up, and place them near their mecha cards. Up to this point, we did all the steps that you will do every time when you play Iron Forest. Next, you will check if this scenario requires additional setup, which it does, because I just checked. For this specific scenario called Establishing Network, we will need the objective markers. Everything else can be put into the box. Except the launcher, you will definitely need this. The scenario sheet shows a couple of things. First of all, the unique setup for each side. So for animal clans, this is going to be the setup. And for the Iron Force, this is going to be set up. As well as you can see the goal for each team and any special rules or explanations at the bottom of the scenario sheet. In this scenario, each team will try to collect objective markers by going through the openings. First, we will place the Iron Force ones. You can see them in this picture above which openings they go. Then we'll place the animal clan objective markers. A unique thing for the animal clans is that one objective marker is not placed on these openings, but it is placed near this opening on the upper level. As you can see right here, it's marked a bit differently with the white circle. Like I said before, now you can place the dice, the white objective markers, and the foothold markers back into the box. You won't need them for this scenario. Other scenarios might use those components, and you will know that by looking at the special setup instructions on each of the scenarios. Now you're ready to play the game. The game consists of rounds. Each round, each team will activate their mechas by using their activation card deck. Once the deck runs out for both teams, the round ends and we will reset for the next round. Each round, players take their turns following the turn order tokens, starting with the first player and then going second player on the other team, then the third player back to the first team, and then the fourth player on the other team. We go all this way around until the round ends. On a player's turn, first thing he's gonna do is gonna draw an activation card, which will tell him which mecha he can take actions with. Your activation deck has your team's symbol on the back of the cards. When you have drawn your first activation card, now you will take actions. There is one mandatory action you have to take, and then there are optional actions. The mandatory action is either the flick action or the launch action. The flick action is very simple. You will just place your finger behind your mecha and flick it. And once it's done moving, that action is over. Alternatively, if you are on the lower level and one of the 4 outer boxes, you can do the launch action. Launch action means that you will take the mecha out of the box where he currently is, place it into the launcher, and then launcher has to touch any spot of that box, and then you will just pull it down and launch it. And once it stops moving, launch action is over. Optional actions usually are using a power-up card or a scenario-specific action. In this scenario, there are no scenario-specific actions, so the only optional action you can do in the scenario is playing a power-up. To play a power-up, just follow its text and then place it on top of the power-up discard pile. Power-ups let you do all sorts of crazy things. They let you go through the walls, have an extra turn, teleport. Just follow the text on the card and it will tell you what it does. Like I mentioned before, some of the scenarios might have optional actions, and if they do have them, they will be mentioned right here at the bottom of the scenario sheet. And like playing the power-up optional action, those can be done before your mandatory action or after your mandatory action. Once you have done your mandatory action and possibly some optional actions, you move on to the third step of your turn, which is drawing another activation card, possibly showing a different or the same mecha. And the fourth step of your turn is again taking a mandatory action with that mecha and possibly taking some optional actions. Once the player is done with these 4 steps, the next player will take his turn, opening an activation card, taking actions, opening a second activation card, and taking some more actions. And then the third player goes, and then the fourth, and we go this way until the round ends. The round ends when both teams' activation decks have run out, at which point the active player will finish his turn, and then you will reshuffle the activation decks and again start with the first player. You continue playing this way until one team has reached their goal, at which point that team wins. Every scenario has a different goal, and you can see those right here on each side for each team. And now I will explain what actually happens when you flick or launch your mecha. Your goal in this scenario is to collect your objective markers. To collect the objective markers, you have to flick your mecha through the openings. There are 2 types of openings. There are the rectangle ones, and then there are the round ones. To collect the one on top of the rectangle one, you just have to go through it. And then you collect your team's objective marker. To collect the objective marker near the round opening, you just have to fall through it. Easy. And then you collect your team's objective marker. Once you collect the initial 7, the opposing team will take 5 and place them near any openings they want. And once you collect those 5, you win the scenario. Other scenarios will have different goals for each team, which you can see on the scenario sheet. Before taking a flick action, if the object you're flicking, usually mechas or dice, are outside the white lines, then you can push it onto the nearest spot on the white line and then take the flick action. Another thing that can happen on your turn when you flick your mecha or launch your mecha, you can bump into other teams' mechas. When that happens, the opposing team's mecha gets damaged. You take its mecha card and turn it to its damaged side. If it already is damaged, it gets knocked out, KO'd. You remove it from the board and place it on top of its healthy side of the mecha card. And the active player gets a power-up card, which he draws from the power-up deck and places in front of himself. And now he has another power-up which you can use as an optional action on his future turns, or on this turn if he wants to. If you bump into multiple mechas on the opposing team, they all get damaged and or KO'd. If the mecha is knocked out, quite literally it's out the board, when the player draws its activation card, he places it back on its depot, which matches his color on the board, and takes his turn as normal. If during your turn, after your flick or your launch, your own mecha ends outside the board, it gets damaged. Then you just place it back on its depot, matching its color. And if your mecha already was damaged when it landed outside the board, it gets knocked out. And then the opposing team gets a power-up. If there's more than one player on the opposing team, they decide who gets it. There could be a situation when you go through an opening to collect an objective marker, but you get knocked out or actually land outside the board afterwards. In these situations, you still collect the objective marker, no matter what happened to your mecha afterwards. And if that was your last objective, you win the scenario immediately. Another special situation is if during an opposing player's turn, they push your mecha through an opening with your objective marker on top of it. Then you just collect it. It might happen that you actually win the scenario on an opposing player's turn. To summarize, you flick your mechas, do amazing trick shots, crush your opponent, collect all your objective markers, and win the game. That is all you need to know to start playing. Thank you for watching, and consider supporting our campaign.